Welcome to the Essential Skills and Concepts for Computing course, or ESC4C for short. As I mentioned before, the course is broken up into three parts. Part A is for beginners, and it focuses on the basics of computing. Part B is for more of an intermediate level and focuses on client-side computing. And Part C focuses on server-side of computing and is also at an intermediate level. So once you decide what part you want to begin with, then go to that section and we'll get started. The recommended prerequisites for the course include the components here on this diagram. So on the outside box you see the physical computer running a Windows 10 operating system. You have the Apache OpenOffice, Python, and Oracle VirtualBox applications installed. And then within VirtualBox we have the CentOS 7 and Ubuntu version 16 virtual machines created. This Apache web server application will be an exercise in the course, so you don't have to worry about that for right now. Now, if you don't have these specific components, you can still be successful in the course, as many of the skills and techniques and concepts are very, very similar and carry across. For example, if you have Microsoft Office instead of OpenOffice, many of the commands are very similar. And I will try to point out some exceptions where needed. Also with VirtualBox, if you have VM Workstation, you can use Workstation as well to create virtual machines. So this is the computing environment that was used to develop the course materials. So I think this is the best environment to take the course. But again, if you don't have access to these things and have other components that are similar, you'll be just fine. Okay, now if you aren't really comfortable installing all of these components, I've put some videos out on YouTube. So let's go out there real quick, get out of here. If you go out to the web and you search YouTube for Strong Start Computing or ESC4C, you'll see the courses listed, or I'm sorry, the tutorials listed for creating each of those components. The easiest view, I think, is on the Strong Start Computing site with going to the playlist and clicking on ESC4C. That way there to the right, you'll see all of the videos listed in order, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, where there's an overview of the computing environment, then going to install VirtualBox, creating the CentOS 7 and Ubuntu virtual machines, and then following up with installing Python and OpenOffice. There are a couple factors to consider when installing these components, and the main one is that you need to determine if you are the administrator or have root privileges for the laptop or the machine that you're working with. So if you don't have administrator privileges, you may not be able to install all of these components. This might be true if you are in a work or a school environment where there's a system administrator that has controls that prevent you from installing software. And so if that's your case, you may want to talk to a system administrator to help you get these components set up. Or, as I mentioned before, you may have to use an alternative, such as using Microsoft Office instead of Apache OpenOffice. And again, just some slight differences between the two, but you should still be able to be successful in the course. To make the reference guide easy to use, I've tried to use the following conventions as consistently as possible. So where you see the Microsoft sans serif text, that just indicates instruction, in comparison to career new text, which would indicate a command. The command is something you would type at a command prompt. And here are the 4 types of prompts that we'll be using. The first is a pound or a number symbol, and that would indicate that you're using the CentOS 7 virtual machine and that you have root level privileges, which is the highest level of privilege. In contrast, the Ubuntu virtual machine will by default put you at the $ command prompt, and that indicates a user level privilege, which is a little bit lower. So if you wanted to run a root level or administrative level command, you'd have to put the sudo command in front of the main command. That's discussed in more detail later on, but just wanted to bring that up right now to give you a heads up. Okay, the other two command prompts are Windows command prompts, and the first one is a greater than symbol. That just indicates a normal Windows command prompt, whereas a PS greater than symbol indicates the PowerShell command prompt. Now if you see a command and then something in curly braces, that indicates something that you'll need to change. So for example, if you were using the CD command to change a directory, you'd have to also provide the directory that you wanted to change to. So you'd have CD and then say C:\temp. So the criteria with the curly braces needs to be replaced with something dependent on that command. One other note is if you run a command and it doesn't work, you may have to actually provide the whole directory path. In this course, I've assumed that the file or the directory is within the normal path, or that you're in the current working directory and that the command would be able to find what you're looking for, either a file or another directory. So in some instances, you'll have to actually provide the whole directory path. Okay, now if you see the double greater than symbol, that indicates that you're using a GUI, or the graphical user interface, and these commands would be replaced with something like start, control panel, and then whatever command you need to do next. But again, if you see the two greater than symbols, that means you're clicking on icons in a GUI interface. Finally, if you see the term click or CLK, that just means click the left mouse button once. Double click means click the left mouse button twice, and R click indicates to hit the right mouse button once, and a pop-up window will show with some more options to choose from.